Good morning, everyone. This is Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. All right, let's get started on a story about Britney Spears. I've written about what's been going on with her and have been following her conservatorship for the last several years. And there's been some new developments in her case, as along with some issues that have gone on with her father. So let's talk about what happened recently, and I can sort of give you some updates about what's going on with the status of her conservatorship in California. So on August 25th, Kevin Federline went into, I think, a court in Ventura County, maybe? I can't remember. Where was he did this? He filed a police report against Britney Spears' father on August 25th, alleging that Jamie had committed an act of DV against Sean Preston. And apparently everything happened in Thousand Oaks on August 24th. So it all happened in Ventura County. Sheriff's County Department Sergeant Marta Bugarin, a spokeswoman for the Ventura County Sheriff's Office, told Radar Online that Mr. Federline alleged the grandfather battered one of the sons on August 24th, and according to the blast, the altercation, and according to Radar Online, is that he and Sean got into an argument at his apartment, and during the argument, Sean Preston, I guess he goes by Preston, became fearful of his anger, and he went into a bedroom or a bathroom, and Jamie broke the door down, and then he shook Preston violently. The entire incident was witnessed by Jaden, the younger of the two boys. And after everything happened, Britney apparently took the kids away from Jamie's home, took them back to her house, and then called Kevin to pick the kids up. Even though it was still her day to have the kids overnight, she asked that he come get them because the boys were very upset. The next day, Kevin and his attorney went to Ventura County Police and filed the report. And then shortly after that, they filed for and requested a restraining order, which was not contested by Jamie or Britney, and therefore a judge issued a temporary order against Jamie for 3 years. So he cannot have access to the children for the next 3 years, cannot see them, which puts this all into sort of a messy place because Jamie is currently Britney's conservator of her estate and her well-being. And because of that, he has been the one that supervises her visitation with the boys, and her visitation is typically always supervised due to her mental health. So shortly after everything went down on the 24th and 25th, then Kevin also amended the custody agreements with Britney in Los Angeles Superior Court. So the custody agreement has been ongoing since their divorce in 2007. Kevin has had primary custody of the boys for years, nearly their entire time they've been divorced. And according to People magazine, in a statement by his attorney, the new custody agreement between Britney and Kevin is that he will have the children 90% of the time and she will have them 10% of the time, and she is required by the court that all of her visitation be supervised. There was two different reports. What TMZ and the Blast were reporting that it was 70% and 30% in unsupervised time, but the attorney told People magazine that's not accurate. It's actually 90-10, and it's what they've been doing for the past year. And Britney always has to be monitored and supervised with her children. So imagine being a mother and only being able to see your children 10% of the time. That would kill me. Absolutely. However, Kevin feels like this is in the best interest of his children, and given what happened with Jamie, this puts Britney's conservatorship sort of under a microscope even further. If you have been following the story at all, you'll know that in May of 2019, Britney and her mother went to court in Los Angeles to request an adjustment to the conservatorship. She asked for additional freedoms and perhaps to have the conservatorship changed. At this time, a team of individuals, including her father, directly determine what she does on a day-to-day basis. I mean, she has to report to a conservator for just about everything that she does, for every dollar that she spends to make, every decision in her life is controlled essentially by the conservator. Now, the conservator is a court appointed by the state. So even though Jamie is technically in charge of her conservatorship, he is an appointed official by the state, and it's actually the judge or a judge in the case that typically has to sign off on basically everything that the conservator can or cannot do. Now, in court, she requested some changes. She asked for some more freedom. And so what the court did is they requested that she undergo a psychiatric evaluation, and they haven't released any more details about that at this time. But they also are investigating the entire team that has been monitoring her and taking care of her, and is pretty much trying to determine whether or not it's needed anymore, along with whether or not this group is keeping her in a conservatorship that she maybe doesn't need. So there's a lot going on here. At the same time this happened in Los Angeles, then her father went to Louisiana and requested that the state of Louisiana honor the conservatorship that she has in California, along with Hawaii and one other state. So he wants to move the conservatorship from California to Louisiana, and then he also wants it to be overseen in Hawaii and I believe Las Vegas, because those are the states that she travels to the most frequently. It just seems sort of odd that he would make that change in the middle of the court in California. Florida, Louisiana, and Hawaii, because that's where she travels to the most frequently. It just seems odd that while the court in California is basically evaluating the team to determine if there's anything going on here that shouldn't be, he's requesting that they change locations. There's been a lot of questions and a lot of speculation from fans and from supporters of Britney of whether or not this is needed anymore. And ultimately, it'll be up to the court to decide whether or not she needs it. She'll have to go through a full evaluation. And also interesting was that as a part of her ongoing conservatorship, they have to report all of her income, her assets, everything that she has. And in August, according to the Blast, I believe, she had reported, or ET, so this is a weird thing. They reported in mid-August to Entertainment Tonight, Entertainment Tonight, that she made 80 trips to 80 trips to Target in 2018. She said she spent more than $66,000 on household supplies in 2018. She went to Target, Home Depot, Walmart, Bed Bath & Beyond, 7-Eleven, and Amazon. She spent over $400,000 on living expenses, and she spent $70,000 on travel, and spent $16,000 on a 4-night stay at the posh Montage Beverly Hills Hotel. Perhaps the most interesting thing here is that at the end of 2018, her assets totaled almost $60 million. And it was more than $2.5 million more than she had the previous year. Thank you for the super chats, Sharon. And so she had... Sorry, I got distracted there. She had $59 million at the end of 2018, and her father's annual income for serving as her conservator is $128,000 a year. That's a lot of money, and that's actually a lot of incentive for him to keep her in a conservatorship, because so as part of the conservatorship, he's not supposed to touch her assets, and he actually has to report all of her assets to the state to make sure that he's not doing anything inappropriate. But still, a 6-figure income for someone who's typically just retired at this point, $128,000 to manage her, that's a lot of money and a lot of incentive to keep her into a situation. Now, I don't think that we should forget, though, that she did have some issues this last spring, which led to her hospitalization to restabilize her medication. Some people will ask, well, if she's so healthy and doing so well for all this time, why would she still be in it? The court will have to make the decision at this point, because ultimately they're going to be the ones to determine whether or not she would comply with her ongoing treatment for her bipolar. And that's kind of the issue here, I think, with any sort of complex illness, is that once they don't have someone overlooking them, a lot of times what happens is they will refuse to take their medication. So it'll be up to the court, and they haven't had any sort of, there's been no information yet at this point. So Kevin Federline is apparently concerned about the boys, and he wants to make sure that they stay safe. So now the boys will not have access to Jamie for at least 3 years, unless he contests at another hearing later down the line, or if Kevin decides to drop it. And then according to the Ventura police, they are investigating everything. They've interviewed everyone involved, and they have forwarded the case to the district attorney to determine whether or not any charges against Jamie would be filed. I believe that Kevin did the right thing. I think over the years, Kevin has really been the best he can to these children. If you can think of it, I mean, my gosh, when they got together, did any of us believe that Kevin would be the one that would step up and step out? He had left a girlfriend that had 2 kids, got involved with Britney, quickly had 2 children. A lot of us, I think, just thought Kevin was, using her for fame. But ultimately, Kevin seems to be a very involved father. He has 6 total children, 2 with his wife, Victoria, 2 with an ex-girlfriend, and 2 with Britney. Britney was recently at Disney with her boys this summer, and she shares photos of her kids online. And then there's an older photo of the boys. And then this was actually a photo I grabbed from Kevin's Instagram, where it has the 2 older kids from his first girlfriend, Jaden and Preston there, and then his 2 little girls with his wife, Victoria. He appears to be a very involved father and does a lot for his kids, seems to have his entire life revolve around them. So, and there's videos on there of Sean and Jaden reading books to their little sisters. So it seems like in the home that they share with their father, everything is pretty much normal and pretty average, and they have siblings. I think we kind of forget about that, right? We forget that their home life is primarily with dad, and they have 2 little sisters, and they have an older brother and an older sister. So they have like 4 siblings, and they live with 2 of them full time. I think that at this point, I'll be eager to see what happens with the conservatorship. I'm always very mixed, because I'm been a fan of hers for a long time, and I think that she's been on a really good path for a long time. But I also think that we'll just have to see what the court decides. And I sure hope that, if Britney's hoping now that this happened, that this might be able to get her out of her father's control, and she'll be able to use this as proof to the court that he's not fit to be her conservator anymore. Her mother, Lynn, has been advocating for change as well, so her mother fully supports this, which I also think is pretty important to the story. And she and her mom had been estranged for a really long time, and I think her mother was a part of the May 2019 hearing and requested that she have more access and more say in what goes on with their daughter. And I think Lynn, would really like Britney to also have a little bit more control of her life. And you know what? Britney's been doing really well. She's had 12 years in this conservatorship. At some point, I would hope that the state lets her go and lets her sort of make her own decisions. She's a much different person than she was in 2007, when she was postpartum from having 2 young boys. So we'll just have to see, and obviously I will keep you posted, and we'll keep you posted on the story of what happens with Jaden or with what happens between Kevin and Jamie, and if any charges are filed against Jamie. But kudos to Kevin for doing the right thing, and Kevin's attorney praised Britney for also doing the right thing, and they said they don't blame her, and they want her to continue to have a relationship with their mother, and that she is a loving mother, and the boys adore her, and so they don't want any of that to change. So hopefully this might change things to the conservatorship. We'll have to see. I'm sure the story will continue to develop, and I will, as always, make sure to bring you the news. Thanks, guys. Bye.